I never wanted their approval. At least that's what I told myself as I stood in my penthouse office, staring at the city lights below. The email that had just popped up on my screen was from my younger sister. Mom and Dad are struggling. They need help with the mortgage. I know you probably can't afford much, but anything would help. I let out a bitter laugh. If only they knew. 10 years ago, at the age of 18, I stood in our cramped living room as my father's face turned red with rage. Art school. You want to waste your life on art school? He waved my acceptance letter like it was poisonous. We didn't raise you to be this foolish, Sarah. My mother sat quietly on the couch, her hands folded in her lap. She always stayed quiet during these moments, letting my father's anger fill the room while she disappeared into herself. I got a scholarship, I said firmly, though my voice trembled, and I saved enough from my part-time jobs to cover the rest. Ridiculous. My father crumpled the letter. You're going to business school like your sister. End of discussion. But for once in my life, it wasn't the end. I stood my ground. No. That single word changed everything. My father's face went from red to purple. Then get out. If you think you're smart enough to make it on your own, go ahead. But don't come crawling back when you fail. I packed my bags that night, hands shaking but resolve firm. My sister Madeline watched from her doorway, eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fascination. You're really leaving? I have to, I whispered, stuffing clothes into my duffel bag. I can't live someone else's life anymore. My mother appeared in my doorway as I was zipping up my bag. For a moment, I thought she might stop me, might finally stand up to my father. Instead, she pressed an envelope into my hand. Your grandmother wanted you to have this when the time was right. I think that's now. Inside was a letter and a key to a small safety deposit box. I didn't open the letter until I was sitting in my cheap motel room that night, trying not to cry. My dearest granddaughter, it began. If you're reading this, you've finally chosen your own path. I always knew you would. The key enclosed belongs to box 247 at First National Bank. Inside, you'll find what you need to start your journey. Remember, true art isn't just about creating beauty. It's about seeing value where others see nothing. Love, Grandma Rose. The next morning, I opened that safety deposit box with trembling fingers. Inside was a collection of what looked like old jewelry, some papers, and another letter. These pieces belonged to my grandmother, the note explained. She was an art collector in the 1920s. Most people think they're costume jewelry, but they're not. Find Marcus Chen at Golden Age Antiques. He'll know their true worth. I almost dropped the box when Marcus finished his evaluation. The costume jewelry was actually a collection of rare Art Deco pieces worth over $400,000. But more valuable than the money was Marcus's offer. I see you understand art's true value. How would you like to learn the business? That was the beginning. Marcus became my mentor, teaching me everything about the art and antique world. I learned how to spot genuine pieces, how to negotiate, how to build relationships with collectors. While my family thought I was probably waiting tables or living on the street, I was building a network that would become the foundation of my empire. Within 2 years, I opened my first gallery. By year 5, I had 3 locations and a reputation for finding hidden gems in the art world. Now, 10 years later, I own the largest private art dealership network in the country, with a personal net worth of over $14 million. My family never knew. They never bothered to check. The only photos they saw of me were carefully curated social media posts showing a modest apartment and simple life. My sister occasionally sent condescending messages about job openings at her company, in case you need real work. I kept the illusion going because it was easier than dealing with their sudden interest in my life. But now, staring at my sister's email about our parents' mortgage, I realized the time for illusions was over. I picked up my phone and called my sister. Madeline, bring Mom and Dad to my office tomorrow. I think it's time we talked. Your office? She sounded confused. You mean the coffee shop where you work? No, I said, looking around my penthouse suite at Morgan Tower. My actual office. I'll text you the address. Morgan Tower. She laughed. Sarah, you can't just walk into Morgan Tower and pretend you have an office there. Security won't even let you in the lobby. I smiled, thinking of the building I purchased last year. Trust me, they will. Just be here at 9 a.m. And Madeline? Tell Mom and Dad to bring their mortgage papers. All of them. The next morning, I watched through my office windows as they pulled up in my father's aging sedan. Even from 30 stories up, I could see their confusion as the security guard directed them to the private elevator, the one that only went to the penthouse floor. My assistant buzzed my intercom. "Your family is here, Ms. Harrison." "Send them in," I said, turning to face the door. The looks on their faces as they entered my office were worth every second of the past 10 years. My father stopped mid-stride, his mouth hanging open. My mother grabbed the doorframe for support. Madeline just kept blinking, as if expecting the scene to change. The office itself told the story of my success better than words ever could. Original paintings worth millions adorned the walls. My desk was a restored Art Deco masterpiece that would make museum curators weep. And through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out below us like a kingdom I'd quietly conquered. "Sarah?" My mother's voice was barely a whisper. "What is this?" "This," I said calmly, "is my office. Welcome to Harrison Fine Arts and Acquisitions." My father's face was doing that familiar red to purple transition. "Impossible. You're a barista or something. You post about your apartment, your struggle." I walked over to a painting on the wall, a piece I'd discovered at a small estate sale for $500 that was now worth $2.3 million. Actually, I'm the owner and CEO of the largest private art dealership network in the country. Those social media posts, carefully crafted fiction. But Madeline was still struggling to form complete sentences. "The Morgan Tower. This is mine," I finished for her. "Well, technically it belongs to my company, but since I own the company." That's when my father exploded. "How dare you hide this from us? We're your family. All this time you've been secretly." "Secretly what?" I cut him off, my voice sharp. "Secretly succeeding. Secretly building something amazing. Secretly proving you wrong about everything." I walked to my desk and sat down, letting the full weight of my position sink in. "Now about that mortgage problem." The silence in my office was deafening. My father's face had gone from purple to an alarming shade of crimson as he processed what he was seeing. My mother kept running her fingers along the edge of my desk, as if trying to convince herself it was real. Madeline just stood there, mouth slightly open, staring at the original Monet on my wall. I opened my laptop, pulled up my banking dashboard, and turned the screen toward them. "Since we're being honest now, here's my current balance. All $14,236,542 of it." My mother actually gasped. My father's hand started shaking. Madeline dropped her designer purse, the one she always bragged about at family gatherings. "This is why you're here," I continued, pulling out a folder. "You need help with the mortgage. 3 months behind, if I'm not mistaken. The bank is threatening foreclosure." "How did you?" Madeline started. "I own shares in that bank," I said flatly. "I know everything about our family's finances. I know about Dad's failed investments, Mom's credit card debt, and your underwater real estate ventures, Madeline." My father finally found his voice. "You knew we were struggling and did nothing? Your own family?" I stood up slowly, placing both hands on my desk. "Remember the night you kicked me out? Don't come crawling back when you fail. Those were your exact words, weren't they?" "That was different," he sputtered. "We were trying to protect you from making a huge mistake." "No," I said firmly. "You were trying to control me." "There's a difference." I walked over to the window, looking out at the city I'd conquered while they weren't watching. For 10 years, I built this company from nothing. No help, no support, no encouragement from my family. Just hard work, determination, and the gift Grandma Rose left me. My mother's head snapped up. "Rose? What did she?" "She believed in me." I cut her off. "She saw what none of you could, that I had a vision worth believing in. She gave me the tools to start this journey, but I built this empire myself." I turned back to face them. Every holiday dinner, every family gathering, I listened to your subtle jabs. "Still working at that little art shop, Sarah? When are you going to get a real job, Sarah? You could always come work for my company, Sarah. We need someone to handle the mailroom." Madeline had the grace to blush at that last one. It had been her favorite dig at our last Christmas dinner. "Now you need my help," I continued. "Now suddenly I'm worth acknowledging. Now that you've seen my bank balance, I'm finally good enough to be part of this family." My father stood up straighter, his businessman persona taking over. "We can discuss the past later. Right now, we need to talk about the mortgage. As your family, stop right there. I held up my hand. Let me show you something. I pressed a button on my desk, and the large screen on the wall came to life. Financial documents appeared, bank statements, property deeds, investment portfolios. This is everything, I said. Every debt, every failed investment, every financial mistake. The total amount needed to clear everything and put this family back on solid ground is exactly $2,400,000. My father's eyes lit up with hope. Madeline started to smile. My mother reached for my hand across the desk. I pulled my hand back. I have that amount set aside in a separate account. I've had it set aside for years, actually. Every time you hit a rough patch, every time you nearly lost the house, I watched and waited. I wanted to see if any of you would ever try to actually fix things yourselves. But you never did. I continued. Instead, you took out more loans. You remortgaged the house. You borrowed from friends. You did everything except admit you needed to change. I sat back down at my desk. So here's what's going to happen. I will clear every debt. I will save the house. I will even set up a trust fund to ensure this family never faces financial hardship again. They all started to speak at once, but I held up my hand again. But there are conditions, I said firmly. First, Dad will retire. No more risky investments, no more trying to prove yourself. Second, Madeline will close her failing real estate business and go back to school. I know you always wanted to be a teacher before Dad pushed you into business. Madeline's eyes widened. I was the only one who remembered her original dream. Third, I continued, Mom will finally start that small bookstore she's always dreamed of. I'll provide the startup capital. My mother started crying quietly. She'd given up that dream 30 years ago to support Dad's business ambitions. And finally, I looked each of them in the eye. We're going to have weekly family therapy sessions. All of us. Because money isn't our only problem, and I'm tired of pretending it is. My father started to object, but my mother put her hand on his arm. We'll do it, she said softly. All of it. I nodded, then pressed another button on my desk. My assistant entered with a stack of documents. These papers make everything official, I explained. The debt clearance, the trust fund, the conditions, everything. Take them home, read them carefully. If you agree, sign them and bring them back tomorrow. As they stood to leave, still looking shell-shocked, I added one more thing. And Dad, that thing you said 10 years ago, about me crawling back when I failed. He looked at me, his face a mixture of shame and regret. I never failed, I said quietly. I just succeeded without you. They left my office in silence, clutching the documents like lifelines. Through my window, I watched them get into their car and drive away. My assistant came in with a cup of tea. She always knew when I needed it. Are you okay? She asked gently. I thought about the past 10 years, the long nights, the hard work, the lonely holidays. But I also thought about the strength I found, the confidence I built, and the woman I've become. Yes, I said, smiling slightly. I think I finally am. The next day, they returned with the signed papers. We began the process of rebuilding not just their finances, but our family. It wasn't easy. Years of resentment and hurt don't disappear overnight. But slowly, we started to heal. My father actually apologized, something I'd never thought I'd hear. My mother opened her bookstore, which became a beloved local landmark. Madeline went back to school and now teaches art to elementary students. She's never been happier. As for me, I kept building my empire, but now I do it openly. No more hiding, no more pretending to be less than I am. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't making others feel small. It's showing them how big you can become without their approval. My grandmother's old jewelry box sits on my desk now, a reminder of where it all began. Inside, there's still one piece I've never sold, a simple gold locket with her picture. On difficult days, I open it and remember her words. True art isn't just about creating beauty. It's about seeing value where others see nothing. She was right, and sometimes the most valuable thing you can find is your own worth.